Okay, it's great to have actually made it here and to see all of you again this year. I'm going to, this looks like a really busy slide, but don't fear, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. I'm going to talk for the first couple of minutes about the research that I've been doing for the past couple of years, and that's shown on the 3 panels on the top. And then I think perhaps more importantly, I'm going to spend the last couple of minutes talking about some things that I've been talking about in terms of conceptual issues. I'm not really going to have any answers for you. I'm really mainly posing these as questions or possible directions forward that I would like to hear from you about, if possible. So as you know, most of the research in my lab focuses on social insects, mainly ants and bees. And so what we were interested in specifically for this project is to look at how individual experiences of ants, specifically social experiences, dictate their future decision making and alter how their societies function. And so we've identified some of the chemicals that ants use to identify who's a member of their colony and who's not, which is a fundamental feature of their biology. And we've shown that individual ants use encounter rates, which they determine using these chemical cues, use encounter rates with ants from foreign colonies to alter their future behaviors. So an individual ant, even after just a single agonistic encounter with an ant from a foreign colony, will increase its aggression even up to a week later when encountering ants that smell the same way. And interestingly, if you look at this at sort of a colony-wide scale, these individual behaviors translate into different colony-wide behaviors. So here are data that are collected for individual ants across a whole series of encounters with ants that they perceive as being from a foreign colony. You can see that there's this increase in aggression of the individuals up to a certain point. But interestingly, this also reveals that within these social insect colonies, there's all kinds of behavioral polymorphism. We have individuals that are initially aggressive from the get-go towards ants that they perceive as being from foreign colonies. There are ants in this behaviorally plastic class that I've been talking about that switch their behavior to become more aggressive. And then, amazingly to me anyway, there are ants, about 20% of ants in these colonies never display aggression, never switch over to being aggressive. They're always sort of these passive ants despite being repeatedly hammered by ants that are from foreign colonies. And so you look at these ants and they all look superficially the same, but instead within these colonies there's a mix of this behavioral polymorphism that may reflect different experiences that have been, that different ants have had through their lifetimes. It may represent something developmental. These may represent different behaviors that are expressed at different age classes of ants. We really have no idea here. And the idea that there is this sort of behavioral polymorphism within these social groups has led me to think about a couple different issues, one of which I wrote about on the Wisdom blog, and that is that not only is it possible for there to be individual wisdom, that these ants are changing their behaviors based on their experiences, but at a societal level, that there may be wisdom that arises as an emergent property, that these individuals can not only access their own experiences, but they take advantage or can access the information that has been gleaned from the environment by individuals around them that they're socially connected to. And so, of course, we know this is true for humans. We are doing this in this room right now, accessing each other's wisdom. And we know that there are examples of this from social insect colonies where, for example, foragers that go out and are good foragers and good at retrieving food have that behavior reinforced and are more likely to display that behavior in the future. Other individuals that go out and are terrible at finding food tend to move away from those behaviors and end up going back into the colony and serving as nurses within the colony and give up foraging. And so I'm sort of interested in how these individual wisdom can translate up into societal wisdom, and also how there's plasticity in these roles through time. And of course, I recognize that I'm sort of an outlier in this group, and so I'm going to end with some things I've been thinking about sort of more from my realm of science, and that is that within the past few years we've really had a number of revolutions in the biological sciences, and I've been thinking about what are some instructive ways or informative ways to apply these incredibly powerful tools to questions like the ones that we're interested in here. So for example, for humans, we've really seen a growth in brain imaging studies to look at how human brains react to certain stimuli or how they function under different contexts. Of course, this is not something that we can do for ants, but it's something that's interesting to think about. And I think probably even more importantly, we've had this explosion that hopefully some of you have heard about in what's called next-generation sequencing technologies, where within an incredibly short amount of time you can sequence whole genomes of organisms. And in fact, we've just submitted the genome of the Argentine ant, which we sequenced in less than a year. And this gives us access to the whole array of genes and powerful genomic tools that come along with a whole genome sequence. And so this has got me thinking about sort of the next steps down the line. And I'd like to sort of leave you with this question that, if you had, in some sort of fantasy world, access to the most powerful biological tools, and you had these tools at your disposal, in what ways could you apply these tools to questions of wisdom or questions that are sort of normally outside the realm of what we think of as the biological sciences? We can look at all the genes in the genome. We can look at levels of gene expression in any of the genes we choose to select. And it looks like we'll probably be able to upregulate or downregulate specific genes. And is there a role for this type of genomic resource in studies of things like wisdom? Thank you.